So we'll have to move now to the next presentation, and here's finally a name I am relatively confident to pronounce. It's Michael Grabner, and he will talk about wooden finds, about the topic that wooden finds suggest a sustainable forestry in prehistoric Hallstatt in Austria. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Peter, many thanks for the introduction. Yes, I would like to talk about a WWD research grant which we got, and with the goal to check if we can find some hints on sustainable forestry more than 3,000 years ago in Hallstatt. So I'll start with the site. Hallstatt is located in the northern rim of the Alps, the limestone Alps, at this part of the Alps. And if you look here, that's the very well-known Lake Hallstatt, and that's the area where nowadays the salt mining is still ongoing, and also where most of the entrances of the historic salt mines are also located. Is more or less in this region here. It's about 1,000 meters in elevation. Just to give you an overview, there are some findings which make clear that they started 5,000 BCE, so 7,000 years ago, with salt mining there because of deer antlers and stuff like this, which were carbon-14 dated. And then, yeah, the Neolithic period, the Bronze Age, and then there was this the findings at the burial ground, which is in a time frame of 800 to 400 BCE, and that's the name giving. In Europe, it's name giving, the name giving findings, and it's called the Hallstatt period. So what we can see here is, I don't want to go in detail, don't be afraid. I just want to show you that we have a lot of samples there. We are working there since almost 20 years. Very close with the archaeologist, and very nice material. I just want to give you an overview that we have a group here in the European Bronze Age, a little bit earlier in the Iron Age, and then almost at the Roman, it's the Latin, so-called Latin period in Europe. So what's the interesting part there? We have rock salt, and these are really perfect conditions for all materials, not only the organic, but especially the organic. They really stay alive and really in a very nice condition, and very nice to work with them. Especially, of course, the wood, but you can find also textiles and stuff like this. So what can we find? So what can we analyze there? The most prominent part here is this staircase from the Bronze Age part. A whole staircase which we are analyzed, and I will show some results later. And what you have seen here before is this is a mass of what we call lightning chips. So this is really to produce some light inside the mine, and this is really a mass, an uncountable number, which you can find in very short pieces or sometimes a little bit longer. And so this is a very important part of information also. And of course, there were a lot of different, very nice findings, different groups of tools and stuff like this. So we call it vessels and bins. So this is an original finding of doing something like this. You can see here, and I will show some very important results later on. Other tools like these small wooden boxes, cups, spoons, and stuff like this. So finally, coming to the results, we have worked on almost 5,000 samples up to now, and we found up to now 15 different wood species. I don't want to go on detail here, but what you can see here is in blue it's always fir, silver fir, Abies alba, and what you can see is that we have always a very high number, very high share of fir wood for the lighting chips, for the peanuts and buckets. And also for the mining timber, it's about almost 50% of the findings were made of fir. And so I will concentrate on fir. That's what I want to show you here. What we also can see is that we really have a utilization of all diameter of a tree. What you see here is the diameter of the findings. And you can see these are really small. So the first three groups, yellow, green, and blue, is up to 10 centimeter in diameter. It's still very small. No? We have big ones, but the most of it's quite small. So we see is that the really small ones, they are in the group what we call the mining timber. If it's really mining timber, we don't know it exactly, but anyway, we've put it here. The lightning chips, if we do the measurements on the diameter, then we have seen that they are bigger than the other findings. And then we have the bins, which I'll show you later on, which are once again a little bit bigger. So you can see it's a nice picture, what you can see here at the end. So our wing with measurements, we are dendrochronologists mainly. So we do the wing measurements for the dating. You have seen this big graph, and so we checked it. If we can see, Heinz, on events, how we call it in dendrochronology also. So that means mainly if we do have increased growth, rapid increased growth, due to release events. So that means someone harvested the tree, or the tree was breaking down due to storm or snow or whatever. And you can see some examples here, and we didn't found it. So at least there's a very low number of it. What's interesting is also that we checked also always the last ring, the outermost formed ring, so-called rainy edge in dendrochronology, if it's really ending with the late wood, like you can see here in this example, or also with early wood. And we have seen almost all of them with late wood, and a lot of them, like here in this example, also with bark. So that means the felling of the time, the interannual felling, will be most likely in winter, because otherwise we would lose the bark if we go to the springtime, when cambium is getting active again. So coming to one of the very important parts for the story here is this very nice bins and also buckets, both of them. That's what we call bin. Yeah, if you have a look at the inner part, it looks like wood. It's nice. It's mainly fur. If you look at the outermost part, then you see a completely different image. And what you can see here is the curled grain, which appears if the tree was harvested and tree was connected by the roots to other trees. Then this harvested tree is still alive because the neighbor is feeding them, let's say in simple words. And so the tree tried to overgrow the wound. So the wound is the harvesting itself. So we still have here living stumps, and the tissue what's being formed here is this curled grain. So this is an actual living, what was an actual living tree, so not a prehistoric find. And we found these living stumps quite often in also in Hallstatt, still now. So that's fascinating, of course, but what's the importance of if you think on sustainable forestry? So we have to have trees connected by the roots. So we can really say there are no clear cuts, because if you have a clear cut, then all the trees are harvested and all the trees are dead. So there is no living tree which can feed the others. So that means it was quite sure that we have just a single tree utilization. Jumping to the lighting chips, really an uncountable number. And there are some findings that make it clear that they are almost a meter long in original before burning, and they are splitted. So you have really a necessity of not free wood. So that means the outermost wood of the tree. That's quite clear, and also at the lower part of the log. But, and we did this work also within this WWD grant. We checked these rare samples where we can find some branches inside. So they are not often. Really, we had about 30 finally where we worked on. So we checked some parameters here at the branches and at the lightning chip itself. And interestingly, because what you can do is to count the number of wings in the branch and to check the diameter of the tree because of the curvature of the lightning chips, of the curvature of the tree wings, which are at the lightning chips. And because of the diameter, we can also estimate, this is a rough estimation, but it's not so bad, the age of the tree. And what you can see here is the diagram. It's here the age of the branch and the age of the tree. And it should be like here in the diagonal, which is not the case. So that means the branches are younger, much younger than the trees. So that means that's a secondary grown branches, what it's called the epicomic buds. So that means that they get active and start a second crown to this is mainly because of the sunlight. When sunlight is coming through the forest again to the trunk. So that means we have a closed canopy, but due to single tree harvesting, or let's say maybe it's not a single, but at least a low number of trees, then sunlight may come down also to the soil, but also to the trunk, and then they start to have this secondary grown branches, and that's what we found, and that's once again telling us that we have no clear cuts. And so this is really deeply dendrochronology here, and I don't want to show you all details, but if you have a look, this is the so-called biological age curve of the trees. So trees in the Alps growing slower if they're getting older. And what you can see here is this age curve of the prehistoric trees, what we found in the mine, mainly at mining timber. And the green one, this is from living trees, from recent living trees, and you see that's different. It's really different, and also the wing width is higher, so they're growing faster than in former times. And if we started also to work on living trees with epicomic buds. So that means we have at these living trees now at the moment also the secondary branches, and these trees show more or less exact the same age curve of the prehistoric trees. So it looks like that this is really the tree, or let's say the silvicultural treatment of the trees, which is necessary to produce the lightning chips in former times. So to conclude here, which is really, I can't show you all the details because this would take 5 hours because we have so very nice findings there and analysis. But it's quite obvious that we have really highly skilled and specialized craftsmen. Due to some findings of the archaeologists, we really know this, that they were also specialized. So not everyone was doing the same. It's quite obvious that we have a whole tree utilization. So starting really with the crown, with small logs, then with the lightning chips at the lower end and the overgrown stumps. We have a high amount of fur, which I showed you at the beginning. And so that's the reason why we have really focused on the fur. And also these overgrown stumps is almost all out of fir wood, of silver fir. And due to the findings of these overgrown stumps, we can state that we have a close canopy. Otherwise, it's not possible. And these secondary grown branches, what I showed you here now at the end, it's showing more or less in the same direction. We have to have a closed canopy and getting some light into the forest later on. So that means a small part of felling single trees or maybe a small group of trees. And so this makes it really quite obvious that we have an really planning and sustainable forestry in Hallstatt. In between, we have a single finding which I didn't present here because we still have to discuss with the archaeologist. Makes it a little bit more clear than we can see here. So that's a story I wanted to tell you. Thanks for the support of the World Wood Day Foundation, and many thanks for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was absolutely fascinating for me, at least. Any questions from anybody? No, I will ask a question then if I have done this. We still have a minute or two. So I was just wondering if you observed no release events basically on these trees. You said there were no, you know. But then you also said that there, because of the epicormic buds, there was there were pulses of light coming into the forest. So I feel, you know, so isn't this something that you should be able to detect dendrochronologically in the tree ring, in ring width also?
We didn't, in principle, yes, this would be the first idea. But it looks like that it was not, let's say, not enough light that they really restart the second growth, let's say. And that's also what we found now for the living trees, for the recent living trees, that they also don't show really a clear signal when this epicormic buds started to grow.
I see.
So it looks like that it's also a hint that we have quite close canopies and not really wide open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. I understand that. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to the next presentation. I see no hands. Elizabeth, I can see a hand. Yes.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much for your really very interesting presentation. I have a question. Have you considered also with regard to the younger age of the branches, that it might be the branch harvesting, or what later was used as branch litter harvesting in the Austrian Alps, so for centuries and thousands of years, that they might have cut the branches and the tree was growing further on? You have the pictures for instance, from the 19th century. They told like cypress spruce, because only some branches fell.
Yeah, but what it was not a high number of lightning chips we found with branches, but most of them showed really a good and fixed connection between the branch and the stem. So that means the branch was still living when the tree was harvested. And so this wouldn't go in the same direction like the harvesting of the branches. Because then if you harvest the branches earlier, then they are dead, and then we would have the bark in between.
There than other branches then.
Yeah. So it happened a few times, but most of them were really in a close connection. So that's at least no hint on this harvesting of the branches. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.